It was early morning when you walked downstairs after getting ready to go for college. The house was quiet except for the faint clicking of utensils from the dining area. As you entered, your eyes immediately landed on Jungkook sitting at the dining table, silently having his breakfast. His sharp jaw and messy dark hair and cold aura made your heart race like always. You hesitated for a moment before greeting him. Good morning, you said softly. Jungkook barely looked up. Good morning, he responded in his usual cold tone before taking another bite of his food. You took the seat opposite him, placing your hands on your lap to stop yourself from hesitating. The air around him always felt so intense that you couldn't stop yourself from being drawn to him. You cleared your throat before speaking. Gia is coming. Jungkook didn't even react, he simply nodded as if your words didn't matter. It wasn't new, he always maintained his distance from you. He never acted friendly, never showed any warmth, and never looked at you the way you wanted him to. Despite his coolness, your heart betrayed your growing feelings for him with each passing day. Wine, Gia's excited voice echoed as she rushed inside, breaking the silence. She grinned at you before turning to her brother. Good morning, Jungkook. Good morning, he replied dryly, taking a sip of his coffee. Gia took a seat beside you and started eating, chatting about random things while you just nodded along. You weren't really listening. Your eyes kept shifting to Jungkook, who looked completely uninterested in everything happening around. Oppa, come to my college today, Gia suddenly said, making you snap out of your thoughts. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. Why? Someone is teasing wine in college, she stated, casually munching on her toast. Your body stiffened and you immediately looked down at your plate, avoiding Jungkook's gaze. You knew he was looking at you now, but you were too embarrassed to meet his eyes. Boys will tease like that only. Ace problem. Jungkook said coldly, wiping his mouth with a cloth. Next time, tell them you don't entertain it. Finally looked at him, feeling a mix of emotions. There was no concern in his voice, no anger, no protectiveness, just a simple indifferent statement. Did he really not care at all? Did you really expect something else from him? Jungkook stood up fixing his suit. However, don't get into trouble, he said to Jia before walking away, completely ignoring your presence. You let out a breath. You didn't even realize you were holding your hands clenched into fists under the table as you watched him leave without a second glance. What the hell, Chia? You whispered, glaring at your best friend. Why did you tell him? Gia struck because I wanted to see if he would react, but he is cold as ever. The man has ice running in his veins. You scoffed, pushing your food away. Yeah, tell me about it. But deep down, it hurt. It hurt knowing that even after 5 years of knowing him, you meant nothing to him. You had been best friends with Jia for so long, and Jungkook always remained distant. He never talked to you unless necessary, never smiled to you, never acknowledged you beyond being his sister's friend. You scolded yourself countless times. Don't fall for him, Vine. He doesn't care. He never will. He's not the type to love you back. But no matter how much you warned your heart, it never listened. It kept beating for him, hoping, waiting, earning for something that would never happen. Later, you and Jia stepped outside the house, ready to leave for college. Just as you were about to head towards the car, Jungkook called Jia as he stood near his car. Jia got into his car. The driver has some urgent work he needs to do for him. Jungkook informed Jia while looking at you, but in reality, Jungkook told driver some other work wanted to come with you to the college. You simply nodded, not wanting to argue. As you approached the car, you naturally moved to sit in the back seat, but Jia grabbed your wrist. No, no, you sit in the front, she insisted. I need to sit comfortably in the back and do my makeup. You hesitated, glancing at Jungkook, who was standing near the car. He didn't look at you, didn't acknowledge your presence at all. Sighing, you gave in and sat in the front passenger seat. Jungkook got into the driver's seat, started the engine, and began driving. The car ride was silent. The only sounds were the soft hum of the engine and the occasional clicking of Gia's makeup compact. You sat stiffly, your hands folded on your lap, feeling hesitant to be so close to Jungkook. Minutes passed before he suddenly spoke, breaking the silence. Can't you answer them strictly? You blinked in confusion, looking around, thinking he was talking to Gia, but she was busy fixing her lipstick. Then he spoke again, his voice firm. Wine, I'm talking to you. Can't you answer those voice strongly? You felt your breath hitch as his intense gaze flickered toward you for a brief second before focusing back on the road. Your fingers clenched around the hem of your skirt. Yeah, I can. You stuttered, feeling flustered under his questioning. Jungkook scoffed lightly. Good, then do it strongly next time. Don't be a weak girl. You nodded, lowering your gaze to your lap. You didn't know why, but his words stung a little. You weren't expecting him to say something comforting, but still, you thought, I thought you would hit them for me, but why would you when I'm not your girlfriend? That thought slipped out of your mouth as a murmur before you could stop yourself. Your eyes widened slightly, realizing what you had just said. You bit your lip, hoping he hadn't heard, but he did. Jungkook didn't react immediately. He kept his eyes on the road, but his grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly. You didn't dare look at him, fearing what expression he might have. Jia, who was too busy with her makeup, didn't seem to notice the slight tension that had filled the car. After what felt like forever, the car finally pulled up in front of your college. Jia quickly grabbed her bag, opened the door, and stepped out. Bye, Appa, she said cheerfully before heading toward the entrance. You hesitated for a moment before following her. You didn't say anything, you didn't look at Jungkook. You simply got out of the car and walked away, feeling his presence behind you but refusing to turn around. Jungkook remained in his car, watching you until you disappeared inside the college building. Only then did he sigh, gripping the steering wheel tighter before finally driving away from there. In the classroom, you sat staring at your notebook, but your mind was elsewhere. You were thinking about Jungkook, his cold words from the morning still echoed in your ears, but his eyes told a different story. There was something in them, something deep and intense. They weren't empty, they weren't indifferent, they showed so much, but his behavior was completely opposite. Lost in your thoughts, you didn't notice Gia calling your name. She had been calling you for almost 2 minutes before she finally tapped your shoulder. Ryan, she called again. You blinked and turned to her. What, Gia? She didn't say anything but pointed towards the classroom entrance. Your eyes followed her hand, and that's when you saw him, Daniel. He had just walked in, his hands wrapped in bandages, his arms secured in a supporting sling. His usual confident smirk was nowhere to be seen. How did this happen? Gia whispered, her voice filled with curiosity. You felt something warm bloom in your chest. You already knew the answer, Jungkook. He must have done this. You could almost imagine it. Jungkook standing in front of Daniel, his goals illuminated. A small smile tugged at your lips before you quickly masked it. You couldn't let Gia see how happy you felt inside. Clearing your throat, you shrugged. I don't know, you said, pretending to be clueless. Gia gave you a suspicious look but didn't question further. The rest of the day you felt lighter. No matter how cold Jungkook acted, deep inside you knew he cared. He wouldn't have done this if he didn't. He wouldn't have protected you. Evening came and you went home with Gia to her home. You had been staying there for the past 2 days because exams were approaching and Gia wanted your help with her studies. As you both entered her house, she sighed dramatically. I swear, if I fail this time, it's because of you. You keep daydreaming in class, she teased, throwing her bag onto the couch. You roll your eyes. I was not daydreaming, I was just thinking about my brother. Gia smirked, raising an eyebrow. Your eyes widened. What? No, why would I think about him? He's so rude to me. Gia laughed. Oh please, I see the way you look at him, and honestly, I think he looks at you too. But you both are so stubborn. You have to change the topic, forget about him. Let's start studying, or we'll fail together. Gia groaned but followed you to her room, where you both began reviewing notes, but no matter how much you tried to focus, your mind kept drifting back to Jungkook, his cold words, his warm eyes, and the way he had pushed Daniel for you. Maybe just maybe he felt something for you too. After freshening up, you and Gia sat down to discuss some topics for upcoming exam. You were trying to concentrate, but Gia kept shifting in her seat, sighing loudly every few minutes. What's wrong now? You asked, raising an eyebrow. Gia pouted. I'm hungry. You chuckled. Then let's go to the dining table and have some snacks. Gia immediately shook her head. No, I'm too tired to move. You go and bring something for me. You narrowed your eyes at her. I know you're acting. Gia clasped her hands together and gave you her best puppy eyes. Please, one. I'm really hungry. You rolled your eyes, but before you could refuse again, she reached out and held your chin between her fingers. Pretty please, I'll be your best friend forever. Sighing, you gave in. Okay, okay, I'll bring something. Gia grinned and kissed your cheek. Thank you, you're the best. Shaking your head with a smile, you stood up and left the room, making your way downstairs. As you reached the last step, your foot suddenly slipped. You gasped, feeling yourself losing balance, but before you could hit the ground, a strong arm wrapped around your waist. Your eyes snapped open and you found yourself in Jungkook's arms. He was holding you close, his grip firm and protective. Your heart pounded wildly as you stared up at him. His face was so close to yours. For a moment, neither of you moved. You could hear his heartbeat just as fast as yours. His forehead had a slight sheen of sweat and his breathing was uneven. Jungkook was looking at you differently, almost like he was seeing you in a new light. You couldn't describe the emotions in his gaze, but they made your cheeks heat up. Realizing the closeness, he quickly helped you stand properly and step back, clearing his throat. You should be careful while walking. You nodded, feeling flustered. I'm sorry, I was thinking about something and didn't notice. He glanced at you and then looked away. It's okay. He was about to leave when you hesitated but then called out, Jungkook. He stopped but didn't turn around. Taking a deep breath, you asked, Did you hit Daniel? Silence filled the space between you. He stood still, not answering. You stepped forward. Jungkook, did you? This time he finally spoke. I have urgent work to take care of. His voice was calm, but you noticed a slight stiffness in his tone. Without waiting for another word, he walked away, leaving you standing there. A smile slowly crept onto your lips. He didn't deny it. Your heart swelled with happiness and hope. Even if he didn't admit it out loud, you knew he cared. You and Gia entered the house, talking about an assignment when both of you froze at the sight in front of you. Jungkook was sitting on the couch, slightly smiling while talking to a woman. She looked beautiful, mature, and confident. Her dress was elegant yet slightly revealing, showing off her toned figure. She laughed at something Jungkook said, and he nodded, a small smile still playing on his lips. Your heart clenched at the sight. Jungkook smiling with another woman? You had never seen this side of him. With you, he was always cold, distant. He never even spared you a small smile, but now he looked so comfortable, so relaxed. Gia, unaware of your emotions, stepped forward. The woman turned her gaze towards both of you and smiled. Hi, who are you both? She asked in a friendly tone. Before you could answer, Jungkook spoke. She is my sister, Gia. The woman nodded, then looked at you, and she asked, waiting for an introduction. Your heart was beating fast. You didn't know why, but you wanted to hear him say your name, just your name, not as Gia's friend, not as someone insignificant, just you. But his words hit you like a rock. She's just a friend. Just a friend? The words echoed in your head, making your heart drop. Just a friend, is that all you were to him? The woman raised an eyebrow. Your friend? She asked again. Jungkook shook his head. No, Jia's friend. Your breath is not even his friend, just Jia's friend. Your chest tightened and you felt a sharp pain deep inside. Why it hurt so much? You had always been known Jungkook never showed interest in you, but hearing it from his own mouth in such a casual way felt like a slap. You lowered your gaze, trying to control your emotions. I need to use the washroom, you mumbled, and quickly turned around, heading upstairs. As you disappeared, Jungkook's eyes followed you for a brief moment, but then he turned back to his conversation with Nancy, his business partner. You looked yourself inside the bathroom and looked at yourself in the mirror. Your eyes were teary, but you blinked them away, taking a deep breath. He doesn't even consider me as his friend, you whisper to yourself. You try to reason with yourself. If Jungkook loved you, he would have behaved so comfortably with you, just like he was comfortable with another woman. If he had any feelings for you, he would not have said that you were just your friend. He would have at least acknowledged you. I think it's time to forget about him, you said, clenching your fist. I don't want to run behind a man who doesn't have feelings for me. You wiped your tears and took a deep breath. It was painful, but you needed to move on. After composing yourself, you stepped out of the bathroom and changed into comfortable clothes. Gia called you for dinner, so you slowly made your way downstairs, preparing yourself to face Jungkook again, this time with a stronger heart. As you entered the dining area, Jungkook was already sitting at the table. Nancy was beside him, still talking to him about some business related matters. Gia was setting up plates and you joined her. Why and sit here, Gia said, pulling a chair for you. You sat down quietly, not looking at Jungkook. Throughout dinner, you focused only on eating, ignoring the conversation between him and Nancy. But deep down, you felt something breaking inside you. Jungkook didn't even try to explain himself. He didn't even care that his words hurt you. Maybe it was really time to let go of him. Then, while eating, you noticed that the chicken was placed near Jungkook. You hesitated for a moment before speaking. Brother, can you please pass me the chicken? You asked softly. Jungkook didn't respond. He continued eating as if he didn't hear you. You glanced at Jia, who was too focused on her food to notice. Clearing your throat, you spoke again. Jungkook, brother, can you please pass me the chicken? This time he froze, his chopsticks pausing mid-air. Slowly he turned to look at you, his expression serious. What did you just say? He asked in a low tone. You swallowed nervously. Jungkook, brother, he repeated hesitantly. His jaw tightened. Am I a brother to you? He asked, his voice sharp and laced with something you couldn't quite understand. Before he could answer, Nancy, his business partner, chuckled and said, Why not, Jungkook? You told me she is Jia's friend, and since Jia is your sister, then Wan is also your sister, right? Jungkook's grip on chopsticks tightened, his knuckles turned white as his dark eyes snapped to Nancy. The air around the table grew heavy with tension. No, he said firmly. Everyone went silent, even Nancy looked taken aback by the sheer coldness in his voice. Did I say something wrong? She asked cautiously. Jungkook sighed, rubbing his temple. Please don't disturb me, just have your dinner, he muttered before continuing to eat. You could see the frustration burning in his eyes. His expression was unreadable. Was he angry, jealous, or something else entirely? You couldn't tell, and that scared you. The rest of the dinner passed in silence. You felt like you had made a mistake by calling him brother. You wasn't that what he wanted. He had always treated you like a stranger, so why did it bother him now? As soon as you finished eating, you turned to Chia. I have a headache. I need to rest, you said quickly. Chia looked at you with concern. Are you okay? Yeah, just tired. You lied, not wanting to meet Jungkook's face. You didn't even glance in his direction as he stood up and walked upstairs. Jungkook watched you leave, his dark eyes darkening, his grip on the chopsticks tightened again before he suddenly put them down. He took a deep breath and stood up. Excuse me, Nancy, I forgot my phone, he said calmly before heading upstairs. Nancy raised an eyebrow and turned to look at the table. Jungkook's phone was right there in front of her. She was noticing their smirk slightly. Nancy, do you have feelings for my brother? Tia asked curiously. Nancy blinked and laughed lightly. No, we are just good friends. Why do you ask? Gia grinned. Good. Else, it would have to break your heart. Nancy tilted her head in confusion, but Jia simply continued eating, leaving the conversation at that. Meanwhile, Jungkook was already on his way upstairs, his steps quick and purposeful as if he had something urgent. You washed your face and sighed, trying to shake off the emotions swirling inside you, but as soon as you turned around, your breath hissed. Jungkook was standing there, his dark eyes staring into yours with something unspoken pain, longing, frustration. Jungkook, you whispered, your voice barely audible. What are you doing here? He stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Jungkook, he repeated, his voice carrying a sharp S. Isn't Jungkook rather? You licked your lips, nervously avoiding his gaze. What happened to you? You asked, trying to change the topic. Why do you look like that? Jungkook let out a small cough, shaking his head as if he couldn't believe your words. Don't you know what happened to me? Why did you call me brother? Your heart pounded in your chest. What's wrong with it? You asked, your voice barely above a whisper. I'm nothing to you, so I should call you brother, right? You looked down, biting your lip. Suddenly, his warm hands gripped your face, tilting it up so you had no choice but to look into his eyes. His gaze was intense, filled with emotions you had never seen so openly before. I love you, Wine, he said, his voice full of affection and pain. Your eyes widened. What? He barely breathed the word out. Will you call me brother now? Jungkook asked, his voice thick with emotions. You were speechless, your mind trying to process his confession before he could speak. He leaned in and pressed his lips against yours. The kiss was soft, filled with emotions he had held back for too long. His lips moved gently against yours, conveying everything he couldn't say before. Your heart raced as you slowly closed your eyes, kissing him back. The warmth of his lips made you realize just how much you had longed for this moment. He wasn't just kissing you, he was pouring all his love, all his frustrations, all his unspoken words into that single moment. After what felt like an eternity, he pulled away, his forehead resting against yours. I love you, one, he whispered again, his breath warm against your skin. You were still dazed. If you love me, then why did you never tell me? Jungkook sighed, stepping back slightly, his jaw clenched before finally he spoke. Because your father told me to stay away from you. Your heart stopped. What? Jungkook nodded, his eyes dark with memories. Yes, one day your father came to me. He requested me to stay away from you because I'm a mafia. He said he couldn't give his daughter to someone like me. He was afraid of your security. Tears filled your eyes as his words sank in. That's why? That's why I stayed away from you, he said, his voice low, his fist clenched. I knew how much you loved me. I knew it every time you looked at me, every time you got jealous, every time you tried to hide your feelings. I wanted to hold you, to tell you everything, but I couldn't because of your father. A single tear slid down your cheek and Jungkook quickly wiped it away. But after today, after you called me brother, after the way you behaved, I couldn't hold it anymore. He let out a shaky breath. I cannot leave you, Wine. It was suffocating all these days, but now I can't do this anymore. You smiled through your tears and reached forward, wrapping your arms around him. Jungkook, I didn't know, you whispered against his chest. I'm so sorry. I'll talk to my father. I will convince him. I can't stay away from you either. Jungkook held you tightly, burying his face into your hair. I don't care what anyone says anymore, he murmured. You're mine. You stayed in his embrace for a while, feeling the warmth, the security, the love. After a moment, you pulled back slightly and looked up at him. One, Jungkook, what about Nancy? Before Jungkook could answer, the door suddenly opened and Nancy and Jian walked in. Nancy smiled, shaking her head. I'm just his friend, man, nothing more. We don't have any relationship other than work. You let out a breath. You didn't even realize you were holding. Oh, I know what you thought. Nancy laughed. But trust me, Jungkook only has eyes for you. Jungkook smirked, pulling you close by your waist. That's right. You blushed, looking away. Gia clapped her hands excitedly. Finally, you both confessed. I was wondering how two stubborn people would ever admit their feelings to each other. Jungkook chuckled, and you smiled, feeling light-hearted for the first time in days. Then another thought hit you. You turned back to Jungkook. Wait, what about Daniel? Jungkook's face darkened slightly, but a small smirk played on his lips. Yes, I did that to him, he admitted shamelessly. You giggled, feeling satisfied. I knew it. Jungkook wrapped his arms around you once more, pressing a kiss to your forehead. I will always protect you, Vine, no matter what. You hugged him tightly, knowing that from now you wouldn't have to hide your feelings anymore. You had him and he had you. That was all that mattered. Just sighed dramatically. Alright, lovebirds, enough of your moments. Let's celebrate. Thank you for watching. If you like the story, please subscribe. Also, click the above playlist for such interesting stories.